It is. I love these, man. I love the fight breakdowns. And we have a good one here this weekend. It is UFC 286. Leon Edwards taking on Colby Covington for the welterweight championship. This is your UFC 286 breakdown. Let's start at the beginning of the main card. This one was moved up to the main card earlier this week because the fight with Vicente Luque and Ian Machado Gary has been canceled due to Ian Gary going down with pneumonia. So moving up to the main card is Josh Emmett against Bryce Mitchell in the featherweight division. You have Emmett, 38 years old, born in Phoenix, Arizona. He trains at Team Alpha Male, and he's been there since 2006. You see a lot of these guys, oh yeah, he's been there since like 2017. Nah, Josh Emmett has been there for a long time, my guys. He is 18-4 in his career. 6 wins by knockout, 2 by submission, 1 loss by knockout, and 1 submission loss on the resume, which means 2 decision losses, including the most recent one coming up against Ilia Topuria back at the UFC on ABC in June of this year. It's back-to-back losses after a 5-fight winning streak. 4 of his last 5 fights have gone to a decision. The veteran in the UFC, 9-4. And has been with the promotion since 2016 and a pro since 2011. Bryce Mitchell is on the come up, 29 years old, born in Texarkana, Arkansas, training at Barada. 16-1, 9 wins by submission, 7 wins by decision, and 1 submission loss. His most recent Octagon outing coming on September 23rd against Dan Ige. It's a unanimous decision win there. It's a bounce back after he also lost to Ilia Topuria. His last 4 wins have come by decision. His last stoppage win was a twister in 2019. He has been in the UFC since 2018, where he is 6-1. The tough, undefeated alumni is a BJJ black belt who has also fought in the RFA and the World Series of Fighting. He's been a pro since 2015. I want to pull up the odds here real quick. It's wild for those who aren't watching. I had all that memorized and absolutely was not reading any of that whatsoever. I have a lot of respect for Josh Emmett. I just feel like his strength plays into a greater strength of Bryce Mitchell's, and so that's where I get a bit of concern, and that's where I think the odds makers have the concern as well. Mitchell is a minus 213 underdog, or minus 213 favorite, sorry. Now, Bryce Mitchell to win by submission is at plus 300 right now. I think that could be where some of the value is. The to win by decision is also in the plus money at plus 117, and to win by knockout is plus 1,000. So either way, you're getting some pretty good value, and I don't hate a Bryce Mitchell by submission or a Bryce Mitchell by decision sprinkled on that one, as we like to say. But the official call here, I do think Bryce Mitchell gets the win, and I think it is by submission. So that is my prediction there. This one's interesting. And kind of sad. Tony Ferguson going up against Paddy Pimblett in the lightweight division. Ferguson is 39 years old, born in Oxnard, California, training with Eddie Bravo and most recently David Goggins in his Hell Week. If you are unfamiliar with David Goggins, you probably know him from yelling motivational things on Instagram and TikTok. But he's an ultra marathon runner who is, I believe, a Navy SEAL, but I could be wrong on that, which would be terrible. But either way, 25-9 in his career, 12 wins by knockout, 8 by submission, 2 knockout losses, and 3 submission losses, including most recently at UFC 291 against Bobby Green. It is a 6-fight losing streak. He's been stopped in his last 3 and 4 of his last 6. The losing streak does come after a 12-fight winning streak that was punctuated by a victory against Donald Cerrone back at UFC 238. In July of 2019. He is a former interim lightweight champion and the winner of The Ultimate Fighter Season 13. He has been in the UFC since 2011. 15-7 for the UFC career. He's been a pro since 2008. Paddy Pimblett, 28 years old, born in Liverpool, England, training at Next Generation MMA Liverpool. 20-3 for the career. 6 wins by knockout, 9 by submission, 1 submission loss, and 2 decision losses. His most recent fight, a unanimous decision win against Jared Gordon, UFC 282. It's a 6-fight win streak. This fight was the first decision in that, and it was his first decision win since 2016. He's 4-0 in the Ultimate Fighting Championship since joining the promotion in 2021. He's been a pro since 2012 and does hold a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. let's make no mistake about this. Peak Tony Ferguson kicks the shit out of Paddy Pimblett, right? Like, not even close. It is just an absolute blitz. Boom, bang, bang, boom, done, over, done, cooked. But it's very clear this is not peak Tony Ferguson, right? And the or not even the frustrating, but the difficult thing about him doing the Hell Week thing with Goggins is if he was gassing out in these fights, and I guess only he knows that, but if he was gassing out in these fights, that'd be one thing. But no one in any of these fights has questioned the cardio of Tony Ferguson. It has been the chin and just the skill deterioration of one of the guys who will go down as one of the greats of his time in the lightweight division. It is unfortunate that he doesn't get the fight with Khabib, and I do think that history kind of remembers him as second place in this whole little area. This is a fight to stay relevant. It is 6 fights in a row, and the competition, with all due respect to all of the fighters on this resume, the competition has become lesser and lesser as it's gone on, and the losses have become more and more daunting to overlook, I guess, for Tony Ferguson. Unfortunately, I do think Paddy Pimblett gets the win in this fight. For Pimblett, boy, that star burned out quick, man. People were real excited about this dude. And now, all of a sudden, it's kind of cooled on Paddy Pimblett. The hype train has definitely stopped, as it seems like there are some real deficiencies in his game. Right now, he is a minus 300 favorite to win this. If you want this fight to go to decision, yes is plus 150 right now. Paddy Pimblett by decision is plus 175. By submission is plus 239. And by knockout is plus 298. It's not a fight I'm excited about. I was a huge Tony Ferguson fan. It seems like just in general, life-wise, there's a lot going on with him. A DUI earlier this year. There was a whole big family situation back in 2019. It does seem like, at least on the surface, that's been figured out. But either way, there's just been a lot going on with one of the more exciting fighters that we had in the 2010s. But I don't think that this is going to be a fairy tale ending for Tony Ferguson. I think he falls by unanimous decision. Real interesting bout now in the welterweight division. Shavkat Rakhmonov taking on Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Rakhmonov, 29 years old, out of the Shirchi district in Uzbekistan. His family did move to Kazakhstan when he was a teenager. Trains out of Kill Cliff Fight Club, which is quite the name for a place, and also sounds like a place where someone would have this resume. 17-0, 17 stoppages. They've only needed the third round for one of his fights, and that was the most recent one, a submission win over Jeff Neal. That's only the second time he's been to the third round. He's 5-0 in the Ultimate Fighting Championship, 4 wins by submission, 1 win by knockout. He went 7-0 in M1, winning that promotion's welterweight championship. 9 first-round finishes. He's been a pro since 2014. He is a master of sport in combat sambo and a master of sport in mixed martial arts. Taking on all-time nice dude, Stephen Thompson, 40 years old, born in Simpsonville, South Carolina, training out of Serra-Longo, among a number of other places. 17-6 for the career, 8 wins by knockout, 1 by submission. He's been knocked out once, and the other 5 were decision losses. He's coming off of a TKO win in the 4th round over Kevin Holland at the UFC on ESPN a little over a year ago. This will be his first fight of 2023. That was his first stoppage win since 2016. It ended a 2-fight losing streak for him. He's 3-4 in his last 7, only being stopped once. The 2-time former challenger for the welterweight championship is 12-6 in the UFC after making his debut at UFC 143, Diaz versus Condit. He's been a pro since 2010. There is no doubt in my mind this is a showcase fight, and if Rakhmonov wins, he is the number 1 contender for the welterweight title. This is old school booking at his finest. This is, let's put the hot young kid on the main card, couple fights away from the top, have him go out and fucking powerbomb the 40-year-old guy from Simpsonville, South Carolina, and he'll go out and pick up a win, and that'll be that, and he'll be the next title challenger for either Leon Edwards or Colby Covington. I genuinely don't see how Stephen Thompson can win this. As I said there, Thompson picks up his first stoppage win since 2016. I am telling you now, he is not surviving 15 minutes against Shavkat Rakhmonov. Like he would have to be perfect or something. Rachmanov right now is a minus 599 favorite. For this fight to go to decision is plus 165. That's actually kind of interesting. Rachmanov by decision is plus 250 right now. Rachmanov by submission is plus 120, and Rachmanov by knockout is plus 250. So that's where I think the value is. I will go Shavkat by submission at plus 120. I feel like that is kind of the value play of this whole thing. And in fact, that one's getting a click. I genuinely don't see how Thompson can take this one. So the official pick, as I write it down, Shavkat Rachmanov by submission. Moving on to the co-main event of the evening. It is for the flyweight championship of the world as Alexandre Pantoja goes up against Brandon Royval. Pantoja's 33 years old, born in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, training at American Top Team, 26-5 for his career. His most recent win, a championship win, as he wins the flyweight title from Brandon Moreno at UFC 290. His 4-fight winning streak continuing, 2 submission wins, 2 wins by decision. He does have a win over Brandon Royval in his 4-fight win streak. He's 10-2 in the UFC. He's been in the UFC since 2017. Those 10 wins in the UFC's flyweight division are third most in the division's history, behind Demetrius Johnson and Joseph Benavidez at 13. The Tough Tournament of Champions alumni has been a pro since 2007. For Royval, 31 years old, born in Denver, Colorado, training at Factory X, also an instructor there. He is 15-6 for his career with 13 stoppage wins, 5 by knockout, 8 by submission, 1 loss by knockout, 1 submission loss. His most recent bout, a victory over Matthias Nicolau at UFC on ESPN back on April 15th, 2023. It was a first-round knockout. Third straight win, back-to-back finishes. The winning streak started after the loss to Pantoja in 2021. He's been in the UFC since 2020, with 4 of his 5 wins coming by stoppage. He's lost twice. The former LFA champion went 6-2 in LFA and has been a pro since 2012. This is a great showcase for these guys. End of the year pay-per-view. At least had semi-draws at the top. But a stacked card nonetheless, and they add to a lot of the talent that is on this. I think Pantoja just continues to get the job done here. He showed a lot in that Brandon Moreno fight, and while Royval has bounced back greatly, I don't know if we've seen enough from him to make him think that he can overcome what he lost in that first bout, so I think Pantoja retains the championship. And now we get to the main event of the evening. For the welterweight championship of the world, Leon Edwards against Colby Covington. Edwards, the champion, comes in at 32 years old, born in Kingston, Jamaica, residing in Birmingham, England. He trains at Team Renegade BJJ, 21-3 with 1 no contest in his career. His most recent win, a majority decision win over Kamaru Usman at UFC 286. It is now 11 wins in a row with 1 no contest in there, meaning it's a 12-fight unbeaten streak. That is the longest active streak in the welterweight division. It is the third longest among active fighters in the company, behind John Jones's 19 and Islam Makhachev's 13. He has not lost since a loss to Kamaru Usman back in 2015. He does have just 1 knockout win since 2018. He's been in the UFC since 2014, 13-2 with 1 no contest in there, and a pro since 2011. The challenger and the decided heel in this bout, Colby Covington, at 35 years old, born in Clovis, California, training at MMA Masters, 17-3 for his career, 4 wins by knockout, 4 by submission, 1 loss by knockout, 1 by submission. His most recent win coming against Jorge Masvidal back at UFC 272, a unanimous decision win that puts him now at 3-2 in his last 5 fights. If you want a quick trip through the fight catalog of Colby Covington, you are probably not getting it. He has been to the 5th round in in his last 6 fights, 4 decisions and 2 5th-round knockouts. 7 of his last 9 fights have gone to decision. He is the former interim welterweight champion, one of 3 interim UFC welterweight champions in the company, along with George St. Pierre and Carlos Condit. Covington's 67 takedowns landed in welterweight competition are second most in the division's history, behind George St. Pierre. He also has the second most total strikes in a UFC fight, landing 541 against Robbie Lawler at UFC on ESPN 5, the second most behind Max Holloway's 746. Sorry, that's attempts. 541 attempts, behind Max Holloway's 746 attempts at UFC on ABC 1. Covington is a BJJ black belt to go along with a NCAA Division I All-American status that he got at Oregon State. He is 12-3 in the UFC and has been with the promotion since 2014, 2 years after his professional debut. There's always a lot that goes into Colby Covington fights. I would never want to host a podcast with the guy. We have significantly differing political views. I will leave it at that. But even with that, there is a way to be the heel that is creative and fun. When you say, I'm going to drag you to hell and we'll see your dad there, that's lazy and just like it. I know it's shitty and I know it's designed to be shitty and it's all just a shtick. But at some point, like, you are your shtick. And I think he has kind of become his shtick. It's not a good one. It's a lazy one. Now, look, he's talked his way into a championship because there is no way this resume of 3-2 with a unanimous decision win over what's left of Jorge Masvidal is enough or should be enough to justify you getting a title shot. It simply is not. So resume wise, it doesn't deserve a title shot. He has successfully talked his way into another title opportunity. And he said that it was stolen from him before. It's that, again, it's pro wrestling heel stuff, right? Like I've never legitimately lost, again, political views, but I've never legitimately lost, and now I'm going to get a belt that's rightfully mine come this Saturday on pay-per-view and bring it back to America. It's tired and it's blah. And so I will admit, watching tape on both of these guys, I say watching tape, it's on fucking internet, man. But watching the fights of both of these guys, I will admit I was looking for ways to believe that Leon could win this fight. And I do think the most likely outcome is Leon Edwards winning this bout. Right now, Edwards is the favorite coming in at minus 145. Colby, a slight underdog at plus 139. If you think it's going to go over, so do odds makers, as right now, over 4.5 is at minus 200. And so, yes, I will admit, like, I am fed up with the shtick and wouldn't watch this if I had the option to, I suppose. Because I don't want to support what he is about, quite frankly. So there's that. But now breaking this down from a technical aspect, one of the things that I think would be concerning for Leon Edwards against Colby Covington is obviously the wrestling, right? Division I, All-American, and now, you could say, like, well, he just beat a wrestler twice in Kamaru Usman. Usman was able to get in deep on a number of takedowns and get him down, but then wasn't able to get the control. And so if that happens, if this stays a stand-up fight, Edwards beats him up. Covington, as mentioned, put a bunch of volume together. He is a bit of a front runner when it comes to that. There wasn't a whole lot of resistance coming from Robbie Lawler. We just did a legacy look on Robbie Lawler. That was not the Robbie Lawler that we watched against Melvin Manhoof, right? That this was a different guy. And Colby Covington admittedly rolled through him, right? Like, I couldn't have done it. It takes a lot to be able to throw 541 fucking strikes in a UFC fight. So that's, wow. But for Edwards, the stand-up advantage is so clear. And so the main game plan is going to be keeping this fight to at a stand-up level as much as possible and keeping this where, like, he has the advantage. For Colby, it's going to be get this one to the ground and hope the crowd's booing a lot, because if it's boring, that means Colby Covington is winning this fight. I do think that he has a slightly better top control at this point in their careers than Kamaru Usman, but I do think that his stand-up, while, again, all that volume against Robbie Lawler, I do believe that it is not quite at a technical level that Kamaru Usman got his striking game to. And so I think that's where Edwards has a real advantage. And one of the things I liked from Leon, basically every time, especially the beginning of the fight, every time Kamaru came in their second fight, Leon was there with a quick uppercut. He was switching stances a lot, which made it a little bit difficult for Kamaru to get going, especially on the single legs that he likes to do early on in the fight. And so he would kind of duck in when he was trying to charge in and get in for a takedown. And Edwards' movement was very good for a lot of this. And again, his sense of range allowed him to back up, hit a quick uppercut, and circle away. And I think that's where he has the edge in this fight. Colby's boxing is not like rudimentary, but I don't think it's advanced enough that he's going to be able to cut off the cage and stop Leon from doing what Leon wants in these bouts. The quick kicks and the quick strikes, I think, are going to be too much for Colby Covington to really get a grasp on here. The thing that would concern me from Edwards' standpoint is that as it slowed down, it was a little bit easier for Usman to get takedowns on Leon. And I think Colby will do a bit of a better job of maintaining that top control than Usman did. And that was a big part of that fight at UFC 286 is Edwards, even when he was taken down, was able to get right back up right away. So it's an intriguing fight. There is absolutely a way Colby Covington wins this one. I do think Leon Edwards gets the victory here. So we are going Leon Edwards by decision in your main event.